So I wanted to make an unboxing video, and guess what? I did. But guess what? It failed. Like a few minutes into recording, the recording stopped for some reason. I actually had the Amazon box, I unboxed it. I had my grandfather's pocket knife and I was opening up the box and everything. I realized maybe 20 minutes into it that my whole effort had been for naught. So here we go again. This isn't quite an unboxing video at this point because I've already looked through this. But I did want to go ahead and kind of share a first look, and this time I'm gonna live stream it. So that way, whatever gets out there, gets out there. But this is it. This is 2017's Holy Grail of Beatle product. This is, let me get the glare out of there. This is the new Beatles box set, the deluxe box set. This is what it looks like when you take it out of the cardboard. See right there on the spine, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. And then here, I'm not sure how much you're going to be able to see from the camera up there, but this is a lenticular image right here. If I can do a little bit of this, maybe you can see it. It's kind of got this stereoscopic kind of thing going on, this lenticular thing. You've seen it on cups before, I'm sure. But man, it is just extremely well done here. I'll do it right there, try to keep it out of the glare a little bit. Extremely well done here. You know, I'm usually kind of cynical when it comes to some of this stuff, but it's just really neat seeing this super iconic image done in this way. Here in the foreground, where you've got the wax versions of the Beatles, and then obviously the Sgt. Pepper versions of the Beatles. Here, the detail is fantastic. When you do this, you see the background a little bit. It's kind of got this 3D thing. You see a little bit of the motion or whatever. But here in the foreground, these images really just pop. It's like going to a 3D movie that has just been done exceptionally well. So like I said, I mean, stuff like this, kind of gimmicky, except when it's done really well, man, it's done well. So let me go ahead and take this out. I'll set this off to the side. This is really just kind of a sleeve for it, right? You catch what's going on. On the back, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. I guess this is what you would see if you were to buy it in the store. It came in cardboard for me. This was wrapped in cellophane. Nothing surprising here, it just explains what's going on. This extensive collection gives an unprecedented insight into how the Beatles made their groundbreaking album. The box set features a new stereo mix by Giles Martin and 33 tracks from the Sgt. Pepper sessions that place you in the studio as the group develop the songs. So I'll put this off to the side for now. And this is the actual box. So I don't want to spoil anything, but that's the box. That's what we're going to see here in a second. Here you've got a reproduction EMI tape, Abbey Road Studios tape box. They would be about this size here. Funny enough, if you've got the book, which I highly recommend, it's fantastic. It's called Recording the Beatles. If you have that, you've seen this image before. And I think in this case, this is actually probably a photograph or scan of the actual tape box. For Recording the Beatles, they manipulated it, graphic design, that kind of thing. But this is, man, this seems real. If it's not real, kudos to the graphic designer, whoever did this. It says EMI tape up here, has the LP number right here. So this would be the tape for side 1 of the album, as it says here. So again, tape number, Identity, the Beatles. And it says right here, side 1 of Sgt. Pepper's, that's the album name. And then it has the track listing, take the length of each song there, and just other kind of nerdy details. Date, April 28th of 67. So of course this is the 50th anniversary of Sgt. Pepper that we're getting ready to come up on as far as the release date goes. But April 28th, which is what, less than a month ago, is when they were really doing the final prep. Funny enough, the actual date on my box set was, I think, May 6th. So about 3 weeks ago was the production date on this box set for me. So anyway, let's take a peek. Let's see what's actually going on in here. And so again, this is exactly the way that I saw it when I opened it up earlier this evening. And this is super neat. I love classy little touches like this. Another Beatles item that does this is the tune-in book from Lewison. Has the ribbons for placeholder, but in this case it's actually to help lift things out. So this is actually where the new CDs, the new discs live. We'll come back to this, I promise. Right now we're going to see the other items that are in here in the actual box. The first being this poster. And I'm guessing that this is a reproduction of what would have existed at the time. The graphic design kind of looks like that style. It certainly doesn't look modern, and even the imagery here, this photo that we've all seen a billion times, it's just dark, kind of oversaturated. But if it's reproduction, you can cut them a lot of slack. You can say, well, you know what? When they did this, if it's really supposed to look the way that it did 50 years ago, it's fantastic. Let's see what the size is on this. 18 by 24. For me, it's not the kind of thing that I'm going to frame. It's just kind of neat to have. It's going to live in the box set. This part right here is kind of cool. It's the old school EMI logo, and it says the greatest recording organization in the world. And then it's super fine print. This is how you know it's modern. It's got the Apple Core limited copyright right there. No copyright date, but they are going, hey, we own this. This is our baby. So I'm going to park this to the side as well. Now this was neat. I knew what was in the box set. I'd been keeping up with what everybody else in the Beatles community had said. For whatever reason, I missed this. I've got a reproduction of this poster. By the way, this is the poster that inspired John to write Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite. If you're a Beatles fan, you're familiar with it. If you're not, this is a poster that John had come across, dated 1843, and I believe that Lennon actually has the original, or had the original. There's a wonderful photo of John pointing to this framed poster. I don't know if it was smaller or larger in real life. I'll have to look this up. But this pretty much contains the entire lyric for Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite. It's even got Pablo Fanca's, his name up here, Pablo Fanca's Circus Royale, Town Meadows, Rockdale. I'm guessing, I'm not going to say Rochdale, I'm going to say Rockdale. Correct me if I'm wrong. Grandest night of the season, positively the last night but three, Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite. And it goes on, talks about Mr. Henderson, somersaults, 21 somersets right there. The horse, Mr. Kite, trampolines, all that stuff that when Lennon told George Martin that he wanted to smell the sawdust when he heard the song, that came from this poster. So I thought it was super cool that this was included in the box set. Obviously something fun, nothing super special, especially when it's done mass production style like this. Again, I don't know if it's something I'm going to frame or not, but it's neat to have. And again, this part's kind of funny. I don't know if you can see it up there. Apple has copyrighted this as well. I'm guessing that it would have been in the public domain once upon a time. Again, 1843. So even when Lennon would have had it in his home, mid-60s, it already would have been 120 years old at that point. But Apple called dibs on it. Next up, Sgt. Pepper cutouts. Now this is something that I've known existed. I'm going to use this fancy dealio right here. So I knew that this existed with the original release of the album. And of course nobody can find them now because I guess at the time, 1967, nobody knew that it was going to be that big of a deal. So why not go ahead and cut them out? Why not go ahead and have fun with them? From what I can tell, this is 100% reproduction. Peter Blake's name signed right there with Jan Hayworth. So because they are cutouts, they're not perforated or anything like that, but it says right here, Sgt. Pepper cutouts. Number 1, mustache. Number 2, picture card. Number 3, stripes. You've got badges right here and a stand-up. So much like the other stuff that's in the box set, this is probably just going to live in the box for me. Not that I think it's going to be worth anything. Again, kind of a mass production deal. It's just neat to have. It's neat to talk about. I'll show my kids, that kind of thing. But it definitely wouldn't do me any good, actually grabbing the scissors and cutting this stuff out and sitting on my desk. So aside from the new stereo mix, which is why we're all here and why we're all excited about this, this is tops, man. This is great. So I'm going to close the box, set it off to the side. Let's take a gander at this. I'm not going to show you every page, but this is fun to go through. So this is record album size, if you can't tell. Perspective is kind of weird with the camera being up there and all that, but I I think you're going to get a good feel for what's going on here. Again, I'm not going to go through every page, but the quality on this is fantastic. And I have to say, this whole unboxing experience, Tune In, the Lewison book, was very much the same way. I'm guessing that the Genesis books, if you're familiar with those, the extremely limited run and extremely expensive runs that Genesis does on a lot of the Beatle books. I know they did it with I Me Mine, George Harrison's. Photographers have done them and that kind of thing. They're super nice. I've never been able to afford one. But if the experience for those is anything like this, then man, it's just out of this world. Very high quality, nice paper, thick, everything. It's super cool overall. But anyway, enough about all that. This is very neat. You see this throughout the box set. This is the original drum skin design. Obviously, we all know and love this one, but that was the original design. I guess Peter Blake or someone tweaked it. So there's the index for what you're going to see through here. Introductions. It's Paul's shoes, Sgt. Pepper shoes, that I thought was pretty cool. This is actually a letter from Paul dated March 2017. So, I mean, at the time of my recording this right now, it's the day that this was released, May 26, 2017. It's interesting to think about Paul sitting down and piecing this together 2 months ago. So it's just an introduction. It's probably nothing that we haven't heard before, haven't had a chance to read this yet. Let's see. Having given up touring at Candlestick Park, we decided we would try to make our next recording something special. So I was flying back from a visit to America. Mal Evans, our big friendly bear of a roadie, and I were having an in-flight meal. So I think he's probably telling the story about the alter egos, the name for Sgt. Pepper, so forth and so on. But yeah, the idea that Paul pieced all of this together just 2 months ago, I don't know, it just makes this feel extra timely. Next page, good quote from George Martin, and what I'm hoping is an explanation of how all this stuff panned out for the remix. This is from Giles, also dated March 2017. So again, I'll read this stuff later. If you're purchasing this, which I can already tell you, man, this is the way to go. I know there's a two CD version of the remix, and then if you want to just buy the remix for probably 10 or 12 bucks, you can do that as well. Fantastic, go for it. But if you can pony up the big bucks for this, man, this is fun. By the way, this was my birthday gift from my wife, so props to her. So this is, let me see how many pages. 143, 145 pages. So this is nothing to sneer at, nothing to laugh at. This is pretty serious stuff. This is not just a token gift. This is my favorite photo of the group, which was used as the single cover, the 45 cover for Strawberry Fields Forever, which is my favorite song ever, not just by the Beatles. So of course, throughout this box set, they are linking Strawberry Fields Forever and Penny Lane with the rest of Sgt. Pepper's. Great photos. I mean, I'm sure we've seen most of this stuff before, but throughout this entire box set experience, you get the feeling that Apple and Paul and Ringo, and whether it was Universal or whoever, just everybody piecing this stuff together has just done a phenomenal job at making the serious Beatles fan, and I consider myself in that crowd, making us nerds really, really super psyched, super stoked about this. It's for the completist, that's for sure. What we're seeing here is a walkthrough of song by song walkthrough, including, which I thought this was fantastic, a scan of the handwritten lyric sheets. There's With a Little Help. Also, alternate title included right there, Badfinger Boogie. Pretty neat. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Again, I can't take the time to go through each one of these, but man, there's a lot here. There's a lot here. More MI tape boxes, and these have to be real, yeah. Tape box for Strawberry Fields Forever, tape box for Penny Lane. It's fun to see those. So the writers of all these, I mean, massive liner notes, I guess if you want to call them. I saw Kevin Hallett's name, known for BBC session work, BBC stuff, among other things in the Beatles world. Good to see him here. Excellent Beatles writer, of course. So yeah, a who's who on the Pepper album cover. Pretty neat there. And then lastly, lyrics. Oh yeah, John and George on the harmonicas for Mr. Kite. That's a cool shot. I don't know that I've seen that one before. But yeah, good stuff there. So that's the book. Set this aside and come back to this. So when I first saw this, and this is so funny because I can see what the screen looks like right now, and this looks almost like a CD cover or something. Again, I promise you, this is album cover size here. And it looks straight up like the actual album would, including details on the back, like the lyrics, if you could tell. The lyrics, there's no 2017 copyright. You still have Parlophone and EMI stuff there. No mention of Apple. But when you open it, it's obviously very different than the record. There is no vinyl hiding down there. And that's because this box set has nothing to do with vinyl. This is a 6-disc set in addition to the books and the other stuff that we've seen. These 6 CDs, or 6 discs, I'll explain what they are real quick. CD 1, new stereo mix. CD 2, CD 3, Sgt. Pepper sessions. So think back to anthology days when we were getting the outtakes and that kind of thing. CD 4 is the mono album and bonus tracks. So Strawberry Fields Forever, Penny Lane, other remixes of Day in the Life and Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds that aren't like on the official disc here. We've got alternate mixes here. So CD 2 and CD 3, obviously, going to be cream of the crop stuff. That's really nice to have. But CD 1, man, that's it. That's why we're here. That's why we're celebrating this 50th anniversary of Sgt. Pepper. It's been 50 years, and it has taken until now for the album to get a proper stereo mix. If you listen to, go back and listen to the 87 CD before the 2009 remaster. It sounds great because it's Sgt. Pepper, but that's about where it ends. It does not sound great. It has never sounded modern, has never sounded great on modern sound systems or headphones or anything like that. It's just sounded really dated. And the mono mix has always sounded fantastic to my ears. Vinyl, CD, anything like that. But the stereo has always suffered, and it does not suffer any longer. I'm super excited to get in here for this. In addition to those 4 discs, disc 5 and 6, I believe they're exactly the same, minus, you see here, the old drum skin, the new drum skin. Disc 5 is the Blu-ray, disc 6 is the DVD. It's nice to have both of those. I'll read real quick the audio content, in addition to the 5.1 mix of Pepper on both of these, which is fantastic to have. I'm super excited about having essentially 6 discrete channels for Sgt. Pepper. I personally don't have the surround sound set up. I'm gonna have to go borrow a friend's to sit down and listen to this and just take kind of a Friday night, maybe sit down with a drink and just take it all in that way. But in addition to the 5.1 mix of the standard album, there's also 5.1 tacked on the end of Strawberry Fields Forever and Penny Lane. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe a bigger nerd than I am can correct me. But I believe that those two 5.1 mixes are also the same audio mixes that would have been on the Beatles 1 Plus collection that came out in 2015. So again, nothing new, nothing major there, but it's nice to have, right? Again, this is kind of going for the completest vibe. And then the visual content, this is neat. Promotional films, Day in the Life, Strawberry Fields Forever, and Penny Lane. Again, I believe they're exactly the same thing that we had on 1 Plus. So if you purchase that, you've already got this, but it's nice to have it in the box set. Everything's all together. But in addition, for the first time with a proper release, as far as I can tell, is the 1992 making of Sgt. Pepper film, which is fantastic. That's where a lot of the anthology stuff, I believe, kind of got its start, got its source from a little bit with Giles Martin walking us through kind of track by track there at the mixing desk. That's really, really neat to see. And it sounds fantastic and it looks great. That's what I was doing right before I decided to go ahead and record this stream of my first look at really just sitting down with the box set. Instead of just opening it and popping out a CD real quick, this is kind of my first dig into things. But yeah, this is it. This is super exciting. This is, it's been a long time coming. And it's extremely appreciated from this big Beatles fan for Apple, Jeff Jones, John, Paul, George, and Ringo, the estates, etc., to finally say, okay, we're going to do something for the hardcore completist. We're not going to give a sampler CD. We're not going to do anything like this. Very similar to what the Beach Boys did with Pet Sounds, the Pet Sounds box set, which came out, I want to say, in the mid-90s, which is a treasure trove of outtakes and instrumentals and everything. It's extremely complete and fun to listen to. The Beatles have never done that. So for Sgt. Pepper to finally get the royal treatment, as it were, it's long overdue, but appreciated that Apple's finally making this happen. So yeah, lenticular cover, the little included things, which is nice. And man, 6 discs for it. And then the book is fantastic. Man, I'm a happy guy. Long live Sgt. Pepper. This is a good way to celebrate its 50th year around. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. I'm gonna go ahead and end it here.